what's going on, guys? It's Matt back here with another video. Today I got a new microphone here. I know you're supposed to put the lapel mic on your lapel, but I just kind of wanted to see what it looked like holding it like this, as awkward as it might be, to kind of justify my purchase. But if you actually want to see me start doing reviews on my audio equipment, which I'm not nearly as well versed in audio equipment as I am with like cameras and lenses and video and photography. That's really where my expertise is. But if you guys would like to see just a wider array of content on like audio equipment, on lighting and stuff, I'm starting to get really into that stuff as well, and like flashes and continuous lights for video. So all the stuff that kind of you can do gear reviews on, I would be interested in kind of branching out and trying some stuff. But sorry, this is a little bit of ramble at the beginning here. Let's move on. Today we're talking about the Seven Artisans 60mm f2.8 macro lens, which in all honesty, this thank you to Hilbert from Seven Artisans. He's my hookup. He sent me two lenses. I actually bought the 25 0.95, which I previously reviewed on my own volition, but Hilbert sent me the 60mm 2.8 Mark I macro lens, as well as the 25mm f1.8 lens, which I'll review in a little bit. I just reviewed the 25 0.95, same focal length. I'm spacing it out a little bit. Honestly, I was like, can you send me the Mark II version of that? Because that would be the most up to date. And he said, maybe in the future. So for whatever reason, he wanted to send me the Mark I version of this lens. Maybe they're just trying to get rid of it. I asked him what the difference was between the Mark I and the Mark II, and he said it's really just the physical build of it, which this is like really big and heavy, and the Mark II is also a 60mm, also 2.8. So if what Hilbert's saying is correct, then really the only difference is that the new one is smaller and lighter. So if you're just interested in the optical quality of even the Mark II version, what I tell you in this review should actually apply to that as well. But as with all my reviews, I'm going to start with the physical aspects, which are slightly different for this Mark I version. The first thing that strikes you about this lens is that it's pretty big and heavy for a Fujifilm lens. It's not as heavy as the Seven Artisans 25 0.95. I believe that's the heaviest lens I've ever used on my Fujifilm cameras, but this is pretty big and heavy. It's not unreasonable, especially I have this this extra grip on my camera, which makes it even more tolerable. And to be honest, whenever I'm shooting macro, it's usually in a studio environment on a tripod with flashes, so the size and weight of the lens is not that much of a concern to me. But if you're somebody who goes out and tries to handhold macro of like bugs and stuff, then it'll be really different for you. Honestly, this lens has arguably the best focus ring that I've used on any manual focus lens so far from Seven Artisans or from otherwise. It has this weird extending barrel that comes out whenever you focus. Seven Artisans tries to have like a marketing thing on this, saying that you can use that to plunge just the barrel into like water to do underwater shots, but you have to like dry it off before you put it back into the camera. I don't know, it's just like a weird way of trying to market the odd design, which, you know, whatever, but I wouldn't really recommend trying to shoot underwater with this. That's just kind of a waste of time. So yeah, that's like a weird thing about the design. The barrel that extends, actually you can screw that off if you didn't want it for whatever reason. Oops. But whenever you retract the lens back into the body, then the internal components are kind of exposed, and I don't think you can put the lens cap on it, which this does actually have a regular lens cap and not one of the metal friction-based ones that Seven Artisans is notoriously known for now. It's odd because the lens cap is in a different font than the text on the front of the lens, which is in a different font than the text on the back of the lens, which is a different font than the Seven Artisans logo. So this 60mm 2.8, as well as the 25 1.8 that I was sent, these are older Seven Artisans lenses, and you could really see stuff like that with the graphic design, the fonts, and even just having pinch-based lens caps whenever they've gone fully friction-based. These lenses were... Seven Artisans is a relatively new company. These were when they were kind of trying to figure out what they were going to be. A lot of their lenses were different from one another. They didn't have like a consistent style. And you can kind of see the beginning stages of the company and how it has kind of progressed from there, because I feel like whenever I think of a Seven Artisans lens now, like the Mark II version of this macro lens and some other lenses, they're like the 0.95 series, where they all have a really consistent style, a clickless aperture ring, a friction-based lens cap, and then the gunmetal mount on the back. So I think that's where Seven Artisans is now, but you do have to understand this is an older version of one of their lenses, so it's not as well polished aesthetically. So now we're onto the image quality of this lens, which really, when it comes down to it, is the most important aspect of any lens, and I would say this is great image quality. The main The main lens I would compare this to is the slightly cheaper TT Artisan 40mm 2.8 macro, which I actually have previously reviewed. I had a weird thing where, especially at 1:1 magnification with the TT Artisan lens, I found that there was this weird haze, especially in the middle of the image. And after actually watching a couple more reviews, I learned that lens has internal reflections, which is a big no-no on macro lenses, like huge deal breaker. And this does not have internal reflections that I know of and that I've seen from watching other people's reviews on it. So that's good, but it can, I guess, flare if you have a light source going directly into it, which usually I don't find that happening too often. But I would say generally the image quality is kind of low contrast. So I do find myself really punching down the blacks and brightening up the highlights and just increasing the overall contrast either with an S-curve or just a contrast slider. And the images are a lot punchier and better. But yeah, it's kind of low contrast, but the sharpness is pretty good. I would say it's noticeably a little less sharp at 1:1 magnification, especially if you're shooting at like f11, f8. Maybe even at that point you should be shooting at like 5.6 or whatever, because your diffraction becomes more and more of an issue as you increase your magnification. See, I did some research this time. I know a lot more about macro than the last macro lens review I did. I'd say the best ranges for this lens are any of the magnifications. Like I said, 1:1 is a little less sharp at around f5.6 to f8, maybe f11 if you really need that little extra depth of field and you can't focus stack. I think you'll be really happy with the results from this lens in that range. Just like any macro lens, you're going to need a lot of light to use this lens, especially when you consider you're stopping it down and you have significant light loss the more magnification you add. At 1:1 magnification at f8, like you need to throw a lot of, you almost absolutely need a flash to get a well exposed shot at base ISO f8 1:1 magnification. Like there's just no way around it. You just need lots of light for macro, and maybe light loss wouldn't be as bad on a higher price lens, but maybe that is another thing that you kind of compromise whenever you pay this little for a lens. So my final thoughts: this is a great value with amazing image quality, like I said, for the value. I would recommend it. I would recommend the Mark II version, of course. Like I said, as far as I know, the optics are essentially the same from this to the Mark II version, but the Mark II is just more polished aesthetically with the design and stuff. So every time go for the Mark II version unless you see a really great deal on eBay or something for this Mark I version. I would still recommend it, and actually it's my new main macro lens. I do not use the TT Artisan lens anymore because I'm not going to deal with internal reflections and random haze in my pictures sporadically when I can't control it. So a lot of people, I would say, who are just want to dip their toes in macro, and maybe you don't have any fun with extension tubes, which I personally found I didn't have fun with extension tubes, but you want to like get a cheap lens, you're probably between the TT Artisan 40 2.8 and the 7 Artisan 60 2.8. I would say go with 7 Artisan, because the TT Artisan, like I said, has internal reflections and this doesn't. And I would say they're equally as sharp, or maybe even the TT Artisan. No, I'd say they're about the same sharpness. The TT Artisan I do remember being sharp, but the deal breaker is the internal reflections, which I think, like I said, those are the two lenses that people are going to really be between whenever they're picking their first budget macro. The one thing, I guess, is I wish it was a little bit lighter, because I know it can be because of the Mark II version, but obviously they have corrected for that and fixed that in the new version of the lens. But that's really the only drawback I have for this. Great price, great image quality, fun to use, awesome focus resistance, and the aperture, the clickless aperture is far enough back that I don't bump it, and it has a very heavy throw as well. So all around great build quality, as you would expect with a 7 Artisan's lens or any modern manual lens, and I do recommend it. I recommend the Mark II version of it over the TT Artisan version. This has been kind of rambly. I do hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed my image examples throughout the video. Leave a like if you did enjoy. Let me know if you do want light reviews or audio equipment reviews or anything, because there's a lot that goes into just doing a video that's as simple as this, a lot more than you'd think. And I'm just getting into different niches of videography and photography. Like I've been doing product videography, which is a whole different kind of content I can talk about. I can do more in landscape photography. I can do more in macro photography. Those are really the niches that I know a lot about at the moment. But yeah, let me know if any of that interests you, because this channel, as you've noticed over the past couple of videos, is just me doing what I enjoy, playing music, personal projects, short films, whatever. That's all I gotta say. I'm done talking now. Bye.